Made the restaurant report this week. The Golden Corral on Blanding Boulevard was cited with 8 high-priority violations. Golden Corral is now in the clear. An inspector came back the very next day for a re-inspection, only finding 1 serious violation. 10 flies were in the kitchen, buzzing. Raw shrimp was stored over open cookies.
Picture this. You sit down expecting homestyle comfort food, but the fried chicken is limp, the salad bar looks tired, and half the trays are empty. That's the reality at many buffet chains that once promised abundance and quality. But here's the question. If these brands built their reputation on variety, why are customers walking away disappointed today? Stick around, because not only will we break down the most notorious offenders, but we'll also reveal the 2 buffet chains still standing strong when nearly everyone else fell apart. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Once, buffet restaurants stood as monuments to abundance. Families lined up on weekends, not just for food, but for a ritual of plenty, shelves creaking with pies, trays stacked with roast meats, salad bars filled to the edges. Today, that image collapses under fluorescent lights, where pans of half-cooled food sit waiting, where variety remains but satisfaction does not. Instead of celebrations of choice, many of these chains now look more like warehouses of leftovers, each tray a reminder of promises broken. The glossy photos in advertising and signage promised one thing. What diners often experience is something very different. The reason runs deeper than just a few bad meals. As buffet chains stretched into every other city, costs began to weigh heavy. Leaders cut in places where customers wouldn't supposedly notice. Cheaper ingredients replaced higher quality ones. A single cook now covered multiple stations that once had dedicated staff. Business logic supported rapid expansion, but each move chipped away at the very experience that made buffets work. Instead of matching the warmth of family-style dining, guests walked into spaces where corporate strategy replaced careful cooking. The trade-off delivered lower costs on paper, but in dining rooms, the change showed up on plates filled with disappointment. That contrast between expectation and delivery defined the downfall. The imagery in commercials painted glowing families around brown gravies, cornbread, and steaming roasts. Diners, though, walked up to pans of soggy vegetables pulled from microwaves minutes earlier. Roast beef no longer carved fresh at stations, but sitting heavy under fluorescent heat lamps. Fried chicken, once crisp and golden, grew limp as it cooled in buffet trays. Customers came expecting warmth and comfort, something resembling their grandmother's table. They found oil-drenched meat, dry pasta stuck together, soups watered down and bland. That gap wasn't just about taste. It was about a strike against trust.
An inspector found moldy potatoes and peppers in the walk-in cooler, so they had to throw those out of there. Cross-contamination an issue here. Also, raw bacon was stored over deli ham, and that is also something that could get people sick.
Golden Corral became a clear example of this shift. At one time, its fried chicken carried a reputation of crunch and seasoning, a dish worth going out for. When the chain grew faster than it could manage, the preparation slipped. Instead of fresh batches arriving steady, chicken sat under lamps until the crispness vanished. Patrons who came for that dish found it greasy, lukewarm, without the care that built its name.
Made the restaurant report this week. The Golden Corral on Blanding Boulevard was cited with 8 high-priority violations. Golden Corral is now in the clear. An inspector came back the very next day for a re-inspection, only finding 1 serious violation. 10 flies were in the kitchen, buzzing. Raw shrimp was stored over open cookies.
The rapid building of locations put pressure on suppliers and staff, and in the process, what stood as the chain's most signature meal lost the very qualities that once made it stand out. Old Country Buffet showed what came next when this cycle went unchecked. These restaurants were once scattered across the Midwest, drawing both locals and travelers. Entering them later in their decline painted another picture. Trays sat half-filled, some close to empty, but not replenished with urgency. Vegetables slumped with hours of steam hanging over them. Desserts laid out were often repeats of the same few items, not the variety customers remembered. The decline accumulated slowly but visibly. Eventually, the empty chairs and lack of repeat visits closed doors that once seemed secure in every town. Ryan's buffet followed a similar curve, but highlighted another danger: ownership changes. Transition from regional control into the hands of corporate structures meant decisions became detached from the customer experience. Efforts focused on cutting labor costs, pushing portions smaller, and rotating fewer dishes onto the floor. The personal feel of a dining room with employees who knew their guests shifted into a formula run by spreadsheets. Patrons sensed the change, not through numbers, but through thinner offerings, colder service, and food that felt manufactured rather than cared for. Sizzler ran into an identity crisis. It positioned itself as both a steakhouse and a buffet, trying to satisfy diners who wanted either option. That split caused neither side to shine. Steaks competed against mid-level chains that specialized solely in grilled meats. The buffet stations offered quality and volume far below dedicated buffets. Customers walked in not entirely sure what the restaurant wanted to be. That confusion, combined with inconsistent food on both the buffet and steak sides, left the chain outperformed in each category, stuck midway with no clear identity as competitors tightened focus. The entire pattern looked similar to military leaders who mistake raw numbers for effective strength. These chains opened wide, swapped quality for speed, and assumed customers wouldn't notice the sacrifices. Yet every plate of dry chicken, every empty pan of mashed potatoes was a weak point in the line. It did not matter that there were dozens of outlets across the country if each lost ground to disappointed diners. Numbers masked a slow erosion until the foundation broke. In each case, the lesson repeats itself. Chasing size meant sacrificing trust. By stripping away consistency, each chain weakened the very reason people visited a buffet in the first place. Dining rooms that were once loud with conversation shrank into quiet corners, dotted with a few hesitant families, customers who would not likely return. The buffet betrayed itself not from outside pressure, but from inside neglect. Still, not every banner fell. A small number kept to simpler strategies, resisting the push for endless expansion or overcomplicated menus. Instead of chasing size, they focused on delivering the same dependable experience from one plate to the next. That distinction would set them apart when others collapsed all around. The rise and fall of buffet chains shows how sacrificing quality for expansion slowly destroys trust. Closing one location after another wasn't just about poor finances, it reflected a broken promise to customers. Yet two chains resisted collapse by holding to consistency and a straightforward approach. Proving loyalty is earned by reliability, not endless variety. So which buffet stands out in your memory? Was it about the flavor or the feeling of knowing every visit promised the same result? Let me know in the comments, and remember, in food and in strategy, precise execution decides who lasts.